pins. It's known as a pony rod. These are pony rods. These are just short versions. You see the wells pumping up and down. You familiar with the patch at all?
Yeah.
The sucker rod?
If we drive by it, that's about it.
Well, what you have, first you have casing. These big green couplings I have over here.
Yeah.
First they drill a hole, they put casing in.
Yeah.
And then inside the casing they put tubing.
Yeah.
And inside of the tubing they put pony rods. And these pony rods are what hook to that pumping unit, pumping up and down. So this whole thing is going up and down inside the well with a pump at the very bottom pumping the stuff up. Now, the typical sucker rod that's out there is 30 feet long. And they may use 30 or 50 of them or whatever to get down to the right depth. They use these because an engineer says they want it at 2,122 feet, they want the pump there. Well, they may not mathematically be able to do that with a 30-foot joint, so they use these to get it down there.
Yeah.
And there's tons of these things sold out there too. All of these have rolled threads.
Well, we can make them.
Oh.
They might be rolled, but we can make them. Because
Well,
if we can get a cutting head to cut the rolled threads, which I know we can because I saw them on the computer, then we can make them. So what we're trying to do is get something started, and then we'll go from there.
well, you get it started, get it whatever, then you go to these different inspection companies. Or create your own company, but there's plenty of them out there. What they do is they get all the used material in from the oil companies, and then they go through their inspection process. And if it passes inspection, they put a certain band color on it, color code it that way, and then it can be reused. Other ones that fail for whatever reason, they just junk them. Simple as that.
Well,
and it may be threads is the reason.
Yeah. Well, it is a lot of times.
Yeah, it may be.
Because,
honestly, I don't know the answer to that.
Well, we find this in everything. But if they get one and they can repair the thread without taking everything apart, you can sell a lot of them.
Well, there's millions of feet of this stuff sold out here.
Now, what size thread is on the end of that?
Well, it's
then is it a pipe thread or?
No. It's a special thread.
Okay.
It's not a tapered thread. It's a shouldered. There's a. Oh yeah, I'll get it out there.
You should buy one of them, Wes.
That's the thread that's on them.
Okay.
Now this particular rod, I believe, is a 7/8 rod, and so it's known as a 7/8 pin. But I don't know what that has to do with the reality of measurements. That's just the nature, what they call the nominal size of that thing. But it's a shouldered thread. You know, it has that coupling I showed you shoulders right up against that when it's made up.
Now this tool that I showed you, I've got in my pocket here someplace along with everything else, was made for a 1-inch thread, and that's 8 threads per inch.
Yeah, that's
pretty close.
Pretty close. Yeah, there's a little bit.
That's bigger.
This is bigger. Well, maybe a 3/4 inch here. Have the right thread on it, because I do.
See, this is one, but this is 8 threads per inch.
I think that's what these are.
Let me get a bigger kit in the car.
That one. No, that
has more threads per inch than yours does.
Yeah. That's bigger than this.
Yeah, well, all of these are, each size is somewhat different.
Yeah.
But again, there's so much of this out there.
Well, that's what we want to get into.
Yeah,
So we need to figure out all the different, what we need to get on those so we can take it back, put it into our system and make some samples.
Well, there's 3 common sizes. There's the 3/4, 7/8, and 1 inch. That's 90% of the business.
Yeah.
Should get a sample each one of them, Wes, or whatever.
Yeah. And again, I would be willing to let you borrow, a 2-footer of each size.
Okay.
And so you can do your own research. Just let me have a list and keep track of it so you don't lose it.
Yeah.
Again, it's not that big a deal, but it's the inventory issues.
Yeah.
Sure.
Pain in the butt keeping track of that. I'd much rather do that than try to sell you on a cash ticket and all that happy stuff.
Okay.
So I mean, you give me your information and stuff, and you can take one of each of those. You can take that nipple over there.
Russ, I don't have any 7/8.
Pardon me?
I have a 7/8 2-footer.
Oh, we're out of 7/8.
Well, I have 4-foot 2. I have 4-foot 7/8.
Well, I think that would work.
Okay.
I wish we had some kind of a. But you need the pin ends, right? to make your gauge out of. You don't need the box end, you need the pin end.
No, we need this. Actually, this is what we need. Otherwise, we have to make this sample to test it. Because when it's finished,
Well, wouldn't you think it'd be wise to do a little market research first, to go to the people here in town? There's AMF Tuboscope, for instance, that inspects these things and find out if there really is a market to repair that. I mean, this may be so inexpensive to the companies, they're just throwing these things away. It may cost more to repair them than it would be cost to buy a new one.
well, all we're selling is the thread to repair that. And if they got it out working on it, they got to take it all apart.
Well, what they do is when they pull a well, they'll pull all this stuff out and they'll send it off to Tuboscope, and they'll tell Tuboscope to inspect them.
Oh.
Now, that's what they'll do.
Okay.
And Tuboscope will put them in a good pile and put them in a bad pile. The bad pile, they just throw them away
Let's
or
get
sell them for junk.
Tuboscope's address and
Yeah, you need to. I would go at least do that research
Yeah.
and find out, is there a market for that?
Yeah.
Is there a market to same thing on tubing, because they inspect that tubing as well. Now, see, the nipple that you're picking up, that's only a 2 3/8. That
Yeah.
thing comes in 2 3/8, 2 7/8, and 3.5.
Yeah.
It's very common out here. Whether it's worth it, or I mean, how easy is that? Is it a simple job where it might?
once you get everything set up for it, it's pretty easy. It's getting everything set up and designing the first one.
Well, like I said, there's only 3 sizes, so how hard would that
Yeah.
be? I mean, they could set up for 2 7/8 and then repair everything
Yeah.
they wanted.
Yeah.
The question is, and they have the answer to that, I
Yeah.
don't. Is it worth it to them to repair these things? If it's worth it, you can make yourself a boatload of money.
We'll find out.
Of course, you got to hope those things wear out.
Yeah.
You
Well,
can't buy just one and then it lasts
I'll
forever.
tell you, they last for a long time.
Yeah.
If
What are they
make
made
it
out of?
They're hardened tube steel, 16 Rockwell hardness, and they'll last a long time.
No.
I sold about a year and a half ago. A guy called, and he had apparently had put a building, designed a building, and it had something to do with over water, and all of the bolts were sticking up about so far, and it was the wrong. They had some trouble with the thread. I don't remember what it was, but he had 4 or 5 hundred. We sold him 6 tools, and the last one was pretty long. And either that or they had to completely tear a bunch of stuff out. And the engineer that designed it, and he was nothing like hell.
Have you ever heard of a company called Voltec Manning?
No, I don't know.
Well, their job is studs and I mean big applications. Studs that have broken off, drilling them out, rethreading, whatever the case may be. That also might be a potential. I mean, they got multiple offices up and down California and the western United States actually.
We'll